I'm James Ezimoha. Welcome to Africa News, where we bring you the latest updates from across the African continent. Let's dive in. Rwanda cuts development ties with Belgium over DR Congo allegation. Foreign ministers from G20 countries meet in South Africa's Johannesburg amid geopolitical rifts. France officially hands over military base in Côte d'Ivoire. We begin in South Africa, where foreign ministers from the G20 countries are currently meeting. Geopolitical tensions, Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine, and trade disputes have dominated the agenda among countries which represent 85% of global GDP and three-quarters of trade. Despite the notable absence of the US, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa called on major powers to unite in tackling global issues.
Speaking during the opening ceremony, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said that he hoped that the location of the summit, being held on African soil for the first time, would be an opportunity to draw attention to the continent's woes. He also described a lack of consensus among the major powers, including in the G20, on how to tackle global issues.
Geopolitical tensions and rising intolerance, conflict and war, climate change, pandemics, and energy and food insecurity do threaten an already fragile global coexistence. These challenges are interconnected. They require responses that are inclusive and responses that should be well coordinated through various forums such as the G20. Yet there is a lack of consensus amongst major powers, including in the G20, on how to respond to these issues of global significance.
Notably absent at the event was US Secretary of State Marco Rubio over his country's feuds with the host South Africa, as he had previously described its policies as anti-American. The discord has increased since President Donald Trump took office a month ago and implemented rapid changes in Washington's trade and foreign policies. Elsewhere on the continent, the ongoing humanitarian crisis in the Congo continues to cast a gloomy shadow over the events.
Rwanda is cutting development ties with Belgium, accusing it of working against its access to funding. This follows Brussels' criticisms of Rwanda's involvement in the ongoing conflict in eastern Congo, a claim Kigali denies. Government Deputy Spokesperson Alain Mukara-Linda criticized Belgium for what he called an aggressive campaign to undermine Rwanda financially, allegedly in coordination with the Democratic Republic of Congo. Meantime, Belgium's Deputy Prime Minister, Maxime Prévost, acknowledged Rwanda's decision. In a post on X, he said, "We are committed to a professional suspension process that preserves the gains of our long-standing cooperation for the benefit of the Rwandan people."
You can't, on the one hand, claim to have a very good relationship with Rwanda, and on the other, go and wage an aggressive campaign alongside the DRC, aimed at sabotaging Rwanda's access to financing, to development, including in various countries, including in international institutions. This was done by Belgium, and Rwanda knew about it. So there has to be mutual respect between countries. Things can also fall back to normal. All that's needed is for people to sit around a table and explain things to each other, eye to eye, and say, "We consider that you've taken sides, you're impartial, you're not neutral." Try to find a solution that suits both countries. But if that doesn't work, you can't do it by force, you can't necessarily do it. But on our side, we shouldn't worry too much, because one country didn't want to cooperate, whereas we can work with other countries. So today, to take a decision that I would describe as unbalanced, supporting one side over the other, is to needlessly inflame tensions. It's not the way to solve the problem. So if the Belgian government does not also take into account the problems posed by Rwanda, we believe that this is no way to help find a lasting solution.
D'aider à la recherche d'une solution durable.
18 victims of the recent clashes in Bukavu have been buried in a mass grave. The Red Cross, responding to reports of unclaimed bodies across the city, carried out the burial on Thursday.
18 victims from recent clashes in Bukavu were buried in a mass grave on Thursday by the Red Cross. Volunteers moved the bodies from the morgue to a burial site after authorities and locals reported seeing bodies scattered in different areas of Bukavu. Many victims had no family members present to claim them.
Officials say they were alerted by the community to the unclaimed bodies. We were alerted by the community and even by some authorities that there were bodies scattered here and there, with no family to collect them and bury them.
One grieving relative says he stayed to witness the burial of his younger brother.
Other family members are still in Goma, but here they are taking my brother's body. That's why I came, to see how they would remove the body and to follow how they would bury him, so that when the other family members arrive and ask me where the cemetery is, I can show them.
The escalation of violence in eastern Congo has left many families displaced and struggling to locate their loved ones. The Red Cross says it will continue assisting with burials as the conflict rages on.
Ugandan opposition leader Kizza Besigye will remain in custody after a court postponed its decision on his sentencing. Besigye, who has been detained since November last year, was charged with offences concerning a threat to national security. His lawyer says the delay leaves him with no legal remedy.
A Ugandan court has postponed its ruling on Kizza Besigye and his co-accused Obed Lutale, leaving their legal status uncertain. Besigye, reportedly on a hunger strike, appeared frail in the packed courtroom. Throughout the proceedings, he remained silent as his lawyer, Erias Lukwago, made their case. Lukwago later voiced frustration, criticizing the court for failing to deliver a verdict, despite urgent appeals for Besigye's release on health grounds.
Unfortunately, we have not got a decision today. We are walking away from the court premises without a remedy today. Dr. Besigye was brought together with Obed Lutale this morning under very, unreasonable circumstances. There was an order that he be returned to Luzira without a valid remand warrant. And to make matters worse, we have not been given any idea or clue as to when the decision will be given.
Besigye went missing in Nairobi on 16th of November last year and days later appeared behind bars in a military tribunal in Kampala. He was charged with offences concerning a threat to national security and later charged before the same tribunal with treason, an offence which under military law carries the death penalty.
Severe flooding has hit Botswana's capital, Gaborone, following heavy rains. Roads are submerged and traffic is at a standstill as authorities assess the damage. Drone footage from Gaborone shows widespread flooding, with large sections of the capital underwater. Heavy rains have caused major disruptions, forcing road closures and slow traffic across the city. Local media reports that emergency crews are monitoring the situation as residents navigate through floodwaters. Botswana's President Duma Boko acknowledged the crisis on social media, calling it devastating. Officials have yet to announce any emergency measures, but authorities are urging caution. With more rain expected, the extent of the damage remains unclear. Residents are being advised to stay indoors and avoid flooded areas. France has officially handed over control of the 43rd Marine Infantry Battalion in Côte d'Ivoire to the nation's authorities on Thursday. This marks another step in its reduced military footprint in West Africa. Meantime, around 80 French troops will remain for training purposes.
French forces formally transferred control of the 43rd Marine Infantry Battalion in Abidjan, Ivory Coast on Thursday, following an announcement by President Alassane Ouattara. The ceremony featured the symbolic raising of the Ivorian flag in place of the French flag, marking the official installation of the Ivorian army at the base, which was renamed Camp Thomas Diaquin Ouattara in honor of the country's first army chief of staff. Despite the withdrawal of French troops in the country, French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu emphasized that security cooperation with Ivory Coast will continue, adapting to evolving global threats.
The world is changing and changing fast. It is clear that our defense relationship should also evolve and be based more on future prospects, in the face of the realities of threats and those of a world that has become complex in terms of security, and not on a defense relationship inspired by the past.
Ivory Coast Defense Minister Birahim Mateno Ouattara echoed the need for a redefined partnership, highlighting the importance of adapting to today's security challenges.
The geopolitical changes and current security challenges in the world, particularly on the African continent, must guide our common desire to promote shared security for lasting regional stability. The reorientation and reconfiguration of our cooperation in defence matters are therefore legitimate, because we need to adapt our operational postures to take account of how the world is evolving.
The 43rd Marine Infantry Battalion has been stationed in Côte d'Ivoire since 1978 under a defense agreement signed a year after the country's independence in 1960. The withdrawal is part of France's border military realignment in Africa, which has already seen exits from Mali, Burkina Faso, and Chad.
That's all we have today on African News. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to A News.